Hi best ever listeners, welcome to the first best ever whiteboard video. Today we will be talking about internal rate of return, also known as IRR. So what is internal rate of return? So it is the rate expressed as a percentage that is needed to convert the sum of all future uneven cash flow to equal the equity investment. So that is the textbook definition. A more simple way of explaining it is that it is the rate of return that is based off of the time value of money. So we're going to go over a quick example for you to understand exactly how IRR is different than other return factors such as cash on cash return. But first, I wanted to mention how IRR is actually used. So IRR is going to be a return factor that is important to both syndicators as well as people who are passively investing in apartment syndication. So typically the syndicator as well as the passive investor will have an IRR goal, a IRR target in mind for the syndicator when they're actually analyzing deals, as well as when the passive investor is analyzing the apartment syndicators deals. So generally there will be a project IRR for the entire project, which is what the syndicator is looking at, and then there is a IRR to the limited partner, to the passive investors, and that's what the passive investors care about the most. Another way IRR could be used is as a hurdle in the syndicator's return structure. For example, the syndicator might offer an 8% preferred return to passive investors, and then after that the remaining profits are split 70-30, 50-50. One of the two, or those two are pretty common. But there might be another stipulation that states that once the passive investors have achieved a certain IRR, let's say 13%, then that profit split might go from being 70-30 down to 50-50. And then the last thing about the IRR is that it's actually used more for a comparison tool when comparing multiple investments. So if a passive investor is looking at, stocks, bonds, and investing in apartment syndication, they'll take a look and see what the IRR would be on their money for those three investments, depending on how long they planned on holding on to that particular investment. So let's go into a quick example so I can explain to you exactly how IRR is calculated. So let's say you invest $50. And we're gonna have time up here, so years. So this is year zero. You invest $50 in whatever, a stock, let's say. And then year one, the $50 investment cash flows $5. In year two, it cash flows $20. So far in the 2 years, you've made $25 on your investment. And then in year three, you receive your initial $50 investment back. So I'm going to put parentheses around this because this is technically a negative number because you're investing it, you're getting rid of that money. So the total profit, as I explained, let's call it TP, is the $5 plus the $20. So that's going to be $25 in total profit. So if you're doing just a cash on cash return, an overall cash on cash return, you invested $50, you got $25 back. 25 divided by 50 is 50%. So in this case, the cash on cash return would be 50%. Now, when you take the time value of money into account, that is that this $5, this $20, and this $50 are all valued differently because it is, 1 year, 2 year, and 3 years later. So this initial $50 right here is actually worth more than this $50 right here because of the time value of money and the fact that that $50 is not as powerful as the initial $50. So the IRR is actually, for this, is equal to 17%. So that's how much the IRR, that's how much the return drops down because of this time value of money. Now, let's say that you actually received you invested $50 and then in year one you received $25 in profit plus your initial $50 back, which means that you got $25 plus your initial investment back in 1 year, then the IRR would actually be 50% because you're not waiting to receive that capital back after 3 years. The last thing I want to discuss is how you actually calculate the IRR, because I kind of just said, hey, it's 17%. How did I get that? Well, typically when you are doing IRR calculations, you're going to want to do them in Excel using the IRR function. So it's just equals IRR. And then you've got your parentheses here. And so inside these parentheses, you're going to want to input your array of returns. So you're going to want to, this is why I wanted to make a column for time and a column for returns, because you're going to want to input this array into here. So you're going to do, this is, let's say row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5. So we're going to make sure that you have all of the returns and the investments in the array. So in this case, this would be what you input into the Excel array. And when you do that, you'll get your 17% IRR. If you do the same thing for the second example that I mentioned, I didn't write it down, but I said if you invested $50 year 0 and you receive back $25 plus 15 year 1, then you would put $75 in right here, put that into your array, and your IRR would actually be 50%. So that concludes this video on what is internal rate of return. If you like this video and you want to learn more about similar topics as well as about the overall how-tos of apartment syndication, make sure you check out apartmentsyndicationschool.com. Thank you for listening. Have a best ever day, and we'll talk to you soon.